So now let's have a look at the star report. It'll make a lot more sense when we actually look at some of these tables. So the first tab is your table of contents. So that's an example of your table of contents. And so I'm going to be covering about the first half of those, just to give you an overview of what the star report is. All right, so the first tab that we go into will be an overview. So I'm sort of skipping over a lot of this text because I'm going to talk about it when I actually show you the actual tables themselves. There's a lot of data there, so I think if you're listening to this, you might just want to spend a bit of time then looking at these actual reports while I'm talking to you. So this is tab 2, which is a monthly performance at a glance. It's giving us an overview of our occupancy, ADR, and our RevPAR. So the very first 3 columns there you can see is occupancy. The first column there is titled My Property. So that's our hotel. The next column you can see it states competitive set. That's our 6 competitors that we've told STR, these 6 hotels are our competitors, so I'd like to compare ourselves to their performance. So our occupancy for the month of January 2012, in this example, our occupancy is 79.1%. Our competitors' occupancy is 69.8%. Now it's the next column there that is our index. And the index, which is simply just calculated with our occupancy divided by the competitive set, you can see because our occupancy is higher, we know that we'd be above 100. So our index is 113.3. So if we just had to know the index, straight away we would know that our occupancy is going to be greater than our competitive set. We look at ADR then, you can see my competitive property, 157, ADR for competitors are 171. So their average rate is higher than my average rate, my hotel's average rate. And of course then that would result in an index below 100. So we can see there the index is 92. Now, what's really important from a performance perspective is RevPAR. So how much money are we making per room? And here you can see that we are slightly performing better than our competition because our index is above 100, being 104.3. Okay, so there again, it's a matter of just spending time to look at the table and evaluate, what is going on. We can look at year-to-date figures, which being in January would be the same as January, of course. Running 3 months, so we can look at the last 3 months. We can look at the last 12 months, sorry. So we can then get an idea of how is this hotel's performance moving. And then the bottom section there, you can see it says January 2012 versus 2011, so percentage change. So it's saying from last year January to this year's January, what is the percentage change within occupancy, ADR, and RevPAR? And so you can see my property has gone up by 17.7% from last January to this January. Oh, sorry, occupancy. And ADR is 13.2%. And of course, RevPAR has quite significantly gone up. So we've made a great improvement from last year's January to this year's January. And of course, we're interested in, we've improved our performance. How has our competitors gone? And you can see there the competitors. If we look at RevPAR, just there on the right-hand column, the competitive set have also improved from this January to last January by 13.3%. However, we've improved by 33.2%. So you just need to spend time looking at that and trying to work out how we're going this month, how we're going over the last few months, year to date, percentage change from last year, and look at how our competition are going as well. Okay, so nice snapshot. So within HOTS, you'll see there, it has the star report by STR Global. And this is what it's going to look like. So it'll actually show you the performance figures of your hotel compared to all the other hotels within your working group of hotels. So this semester, if you've got 4 or 5 hotels, then it's comparing my property, which is your hotel, compared to all the other competitive sets. So in this example here, you can see this hotel is overall, we looked at their RevPAR index, is overall performing better than their competition. And that's something that we look at a little bit more in our exercises. All right, so tab 3 now, we're going to provide a comparison to various industry segments. We're also going to look at occupancy, ADR, and RevPAR. We're going to also look at time changes and the pipeline. Now, this next slide, it's very busy, I know. So that is what tab 3 looks like. And where I've circled it, those are the tables that we're going to zoom into more. So I'm going to go into each of those areas into more detail because it's a bit difficult to read it off the screen because it's so small. All right, so this is the first one that I'm looking at. And if I go back there, you can see the census is sitting down the bottom there. So that's that first table I'm going to zoom into. And so you can see here, it's comparing the census, which is all the hotels in the marketplace, compared to the samples, so the hotels that are supplying data to STR. So I've circled their competitive set. So there's 6 competitors in our competitive set, and all 6 of them are providing data to STR. If we go to the top row there where it says market resort area, what that's saying is in the resort marketplace, which includes all classes of hotels, there's 469 hotels, and 305 of those hotels are providing data to STR. So that's an excellent database of data. All right, so the next part that I've zoomed into is looking at different market segments, or industry segments, sorry. Up the top there, upper upscale hotel in a resort market. That is our hotel. So our hotel is an upper upscale hotel in a resort market. And down the bottom there, you can see our competitive set. Now, it's also given us average data for all hotels in the resort area. It's given us data for all upper upscale hotels, resort, urban, everyone, resort area downtown, and luxury upper upscale. So if you wanted to make those sort of comparisons between, you know, all upper upscale hotels to see how your average related, you could look at this report. But at the moment, we're really just interested in looking at our performance compared to the competitive set. So you can see I've circled there, and I've just zoomed into RevPAR. So this same table you'll see for occupancy, ADR, but I'm just looking at the RevPAR table. So our RevPAR for the current month is $125, which is a 33.2% change. So if you recall from that earlier overview, we could see that we had a percentage change of 33.2% from the previous January. And our competitive set, they have a RevPAR $119.85. Okay, and then you can see percentage change running for 3 and 12 months then. All right, then the next table that I'm zooming into is a supply, demand, and revenue table. So supply is all rooms available for sale on the market based on our competitive set and our hotel. So in this example here, you can see our hotel supply for the last month, there's been no change, but if we had to look at the last 12 months, there's a 2.7% change. So we have had an increase in supply over the last 12 months. That could be, we might have converted a meeting space into 2 suites or whatever it could be. And you can see the competitive set, there's been no change to the supply of rooms. Then we've got demand. So number of rooms sold, that's like our occupancy figures there. And then we've got our revenue figures down the bottom. And we knew that our RevPAR went up by 33.2%, and you can see there our percentage change for our hotel is 33.2%. So it's just a different way of looking at it. The other table then that we're zooming in here is called the pipeline table. So we can see here hotels in the market segment called resort. We have under construction or hotels that are under planning. So under construction, you can see the definition there. Ground has been broken or it's finalising the bids, and then projects that are under planning. A lot of the projects under planning never actually eventuate, but when they're under construction, you know, they're definitely going ahead. So within the resort sector, we know that we've got 8 properties under construction. So as a manager, of course, yes, we've got more competition coming, but do we? The next thing we'd need to do then is say, well, are those hotels being built in the resort area actually upper upscale hotels? Hotels we're competing with. If they're hotels in the economy sector, well, then it's not really a competition to us, so we wouldn't be too fazed by those 8 hotels coming on board. Okay, this is just an example of this data being supplied by STR to, the industry. And here's a little story about the pipeline, how there's an increase in pipeline in the Asia Pacific region. So again, really powerful information that STR are providing. All right, the next tab is called the competitive set report. So now we're going to go into a lot more detail on the competitive set. So let's have a look at what the report looks like. So again, those areas that I've circled, we're going to go zoom in and talk about each of those areas in more detail. All right, so that's the first one. Now this is a graph of indices. So it's going to show our performance over time based on the index. So you can see the blue line is our occupancy index line. It's not our actual occupancy figure, it's the index figure. So if we had an index of 115, it would be up to 115 and so on. And ADR is the green line, RevPAR then is the brown line. Now our competitors, because this is the index, it's the comparison to our competition. So every time, you can see the black dotted line there, that's at 100. So every time our index is above 100, it means that we're performing better than our competition. Every time the line, any of those lines go below 100, means that we're performing worse than our competition. So you can see there that we're performing better than our competitors for many months. If we have a look at which are our best performing months, have a look at the brown line, the RevPAR. Which months then do we perform much better than our competition? You can see there August has the highest RevPAR. That was the last August, and if you go 18 months to that August, you can see we perform really well. And then of course you can see the months that we don't perform as well as our competition. So if we look at, we're just looking at the last month of January, but if we look at the previous January there, you can see we actually perform quite poorly. Our RevPAR is quite low in comparison to our competition. If we compare it to this January, our performance has improved significantly. Our RevPAR is actually slightly above our competitors because that brown line is above the dotted black line, which is 100, the index of 100. So it really shows us a lot of information graphically. Now let's just have a look at this for a minute and think about it. So we can see here that in the month of April, the green line has gone up, which means that our general manager decided to raise rates. Now what has happened as a result of that? You can see there in the month of April when the rates went up, RevPAR went down slightly, occupancy went down quite a bit. The following month, occupancy went down significantly, and then that of course resulted in a lower RevPAR. So it's okay to try things, and as you're running your hotels and HOTs, you should be trying different things. You should be trying to work out your price point where you can maximize your revenue. And that's what is here, except my feeling is that the general manager just left the rates too high for too long. So they made a loss for 3 months there, which is then a bit hard to catch up. So the manager then reduced the rates in the month of July, and you can see an adjustment there. Occupancy went back up, and their RevPARs actually improved. All right, now with this table, and I know you can't see it very well, so I think you need to zoom in a little bit and have a look at it maybe on paper or on the screen. But this is providing additional information. Of course, we've got my property up the top there, and we've got a competitive set. Now this table is just looking at RevPAR. Again, you can see the same table for occupancy and ADR. But what this table is giving us in addition is a ranking. So we can see our index, we can see month to month. We're January there, and we can go back December, November. We can see our index performance. But in addition to that, we can see our actual ranking. So out of this group of 7 hotels, the 6 competitive hotels plus ourselves, where do we sit? So for the month of January, for instance, we are the 3rd best performing hotel out of 7. So even though our index says we're performing better than the average, which is great, we want to be better than the average, but how many hotels are performing better than we are? And now we know in this example there's 2 hotels performing better than we are in the month of January. So we can go back in time to see in which months are we performing the best. And if you had to guess, you'd probably guess August, because we're performing so much better than our competitive set. So in August and July, we're ranked 1 out of 7. So we're performing better than everyone else for those 2 months. Then you can go back and say, well, which is our worst performing months? In September, we're a 5 out of 7, and then we sort of peak up again. So what is happening in the month of September? How can we improve our performance to get higher than 5 out of 7? So a lot of information there. We can see, we can go back over time. Are we performing, improving our rankings over time? And of course, our percentage change as well, we can have a look at. Now this is just showing you year to date. So we want to look at what's happening for the last 3 years in this example. Again, I'm just highlighting RevPAR. But we can see year to date for 2012, 2011, 2010, and we can see our rankings overall for those years from 2010 to 2011 have improved. Now we're 3 out of 7, whereas we used to be 4 out of 7. So again, you stop and look at how are we going for the last 3 months, the last 12 months, percentage change. Now tab 5, we're going to go and have a look at here, and this simply tells us how many are actually providing data, how many hotels are providing data to us. So here we can see the 6 hotels listed there that are in our competitive set, and if it's a dark circle, they're providing monthly and daily data. If it was a white circle, it would be monthly only. So we know and we're confident that the data that they're providing, we're getting accurate, up-to-date data as they're supplying daily information. The next tab, tab 6, now will show us our day of the week and weekend report. So let's have a look at that. So again, I'm just zooming into those 2 sections so we can look at how are we performing per day and how are we performing weekend compared to weekday. All right, so this is our day of the week report. So have a look at that, spend a bit of time reading through those numbers. What day are we performing better than our competition? So what I tend to do is I just have a look at the index. I scan down that column. If we just look at the current month, for instance, I can scan and I quickly identify, the day that we have the highest index is the day that we're performing the best, much better than our competition. So that would be on a Friday for the current month. Our index is 122.4. The next day that we perform quite well is on a Wednesday. Our index is 111. Now, what days do we actually perform poorly in? Thursdays and Mondays. So this is identifying the days that we actually can then focus on and make improvements on. And of course, you can see all the data there. We've got running 3 months, 12 months that you can go in and analyze. Then it's collapsed the weekend days together and the weekday days together. So we can then get an indication overall, are we performing better or worse than our competition for weekday rooms, or are we performing better on the weekends? So again, just scan down the index there. We look at the current month. We are performing better than our competition on the weekends. 112.8 is our index. And we're performing slightly better than our competition for the weekdays. So overall, we're doing quite well, but we'd want to improve our performance for those few weekdays that we're actually performing worse than our competition. All right, now the last tab I want to look at is segmentation at a glance. Now this is where we're breaking down our market segments by transient, group and contract business. So you can see the columns, transient, group, contracts. We can see occupancy, ADR and RevPAR, and we can compare now my property compared to the competitive set. So with transients, for instance, we can see that my hotel occupancy is 30.1%, so compared to 20.4% occupancy of our competitors. And of course, you look at the index and you can see the index is 147.1. So we're performing much better than our competition with regards to transient business occupancy. But of course, RevPAR is really what's important because it's that balance between occupancy and average rate. So if we have a look down at our RevPAR for transient business, so that's leisure travellers, business travellers, government travellers. The index for transients for RevPAR is 133.2. So we are performing better than our competition with regards to transient business. If we go across then to groups, we can see there that the index is 94.1, an index of 94.1. So we're actually performing worse than our competition for group business. And then contract business, we've got an index of 0, so we don't actually have any contract business. So this is really important in trying to narrow it down. Where are we doing better and where can we actually improve? With which markets can we improve? And of course, lots of data there we can look at and analyse, and this is something that you will need to do as well for your final exam, which we'll spend time in the Collaborate sessions talking a little bit more about it. Now, I've just left in some appendices here. When you're looking at the tables, this will help you think about what are the issues there. So this will help you in your exam time when you're coming to study for exams. So it's not necessarily something you need now for HOTS and running your hotels, but you can come back to this. So I'm not going to run through these appendices. It's just hints and tips for you when you're looking at these charts. All right, thank you.